My name is Wolfgang Herbert, and you will forgive me when I start with my personal history concerning the involvement with the Japanese underworld. How does a person like me, who at least looks like a decent human being, hooks up with gangsters? And I will outline this first, and then talk about how I did conduct the academic research on the topic, and then I will give an outline of the history of the Yakuza post-war, not going back to the Middle Ages or something, and how the underworld criminal market has significantly changed in the last years. And so where shall I start? I came to Japan the first time in 1983, and I came here as the member of the national team for a world championship in karate. And my karate teachers, the one from Germany and the one from Austria, were both OBs from the Takushoku University. And here the story begins. I will maybe mention these names several times because they are the most well-known crime reporters in Japan. This is Mizoguchi Atsushi and Suzuki Tomohito. Yeah? They have written loads of books about the Yakuza, if you're interested, very well researched. And there is also a book on the market where they have a dialogue. And in there, almost jokingly, they talk about certain universities in Japan, Nihon Taiku Daigaku, Teisho Daigaku, Takushoku Daigaku, yeah? And these universities have very strong martial arts clubs, yeah? Karate-bu. Takushoku was extremely famous, was the best and strongest karate-bu for many decades, yeah? Until it was shut down because one of the students was kicked to death by one of his senpai because he didn't wash the karategi of his senpai decently, and the karate-bu was closed down by the Monkasho for a while. Yeah? And in the meanwhile, Teisho Daigaku is the strongest karate university if you want. But Takushoku also had a strong sumo club and a strong boxing club. And these clubs, yeah, the people who train there don't study much. Yeah? The Yakuza actually talk about that by themselves, and they use the English term scouting. They told me that they went to Takushoku Daigaku, yeah, and talked to the students, Sankai-sei, Onkai-sei, and said, "Uchi no honi kei katte," meaning, don't you join our organization or something? Sometimes, I'm sorry to have to say that, but in the karate world, there are quite a few stupid people. And some of these students, they were eager to check out if their karate techniques are working on the street. And they got hired by the Yakuza for beating up some people and got some pocket money for that. And stories like that I heard. Yeah? And so there was a strong connection between Yakuza organizations in Tokyo and Takudai, particularly with the karate-bu. Yeah? And because some of the senpai of my karate teachers have become high-ranking Yakuza, yeah? I came to Japan first time. At the time it was Narita, where you came from international flights. Yeah? I came out of the plane, and there was a circle of guys, sturdy guys, clad in black, Armani, Boss, you name it, wonderful brand name suits, and they were standing at the circle and said, "Oh!" These were the senpai of my karate teacher. So, demokai desu yo, sore wa. So my first impression of Japan is not geisha or Fuji-san or sakura or temples or something. My first impression of Japan is Yakuza. Yeah? And then from Narita Airport we drove into town to the new Otani Hotel, with big Mercedes-Benz and everything. can fancy, yeah, and had a party there, had steak and drank beer and all the rest of it, yeah. So, and of course I heard a lot of stories about this Yakuza and blah blah blah, and I got interested if these stories they told me, if this is true or not true or something, yeah. So my interest was kindled at that time. So as Kame Sensei mentioned, my actual subjects at university were philosophy and religious studies, but my professor in Japanese studies was a sociologist. I wanted to write a thesis about Zen Buddhism and Christian mysticism or something, yeah? And my professor said, no, this is boring and blah, blah, blah. And he said, tackle some social problem, yeah? I was a little bit peeved, and I said, I shot out the word Yakuza, yeah? And my prof was a little bit shocked, and then he said, all right, nobody ever has done any studies about the Yakuza in the German-speaking world. Do it, yeah? And since then I started my work on the Yakuza. Everything else is by chance. Yeah? I have several times tried to get in contact from my side with Yakuza, and almost always it was declined. Yeah? So what happened is that I came to Japan in 1990s, and at the time I did a study on illegal labor. Yeah? You were not born, the young people, but it was shortly after the bubble economy burst. Yeah? I was here during the bubble economy as well. Yeah? And in that time there was a big labor shortage in Japan, and quite a few illegal workers came in from Korea, from the Philippines, from Iran, interestingly, because they didn't need a visa at the time because of oil interests and stuff. Yeah? So many illegal workers were floating around on the labor market. I made a study on that topic. And for this study, I went to the day laborer area in Osaka, Kamagasaki. Yeah? The administration calls it Airin Chiku. Yeah? The people down there, they say Kama, or Kasumicho is the very old name for it. Yeah? And at the time, it was after the bubble, there were around 30,000 day laborers active via this area to get a job in the morning. Yeah? And the labor agents, almost all of them were Yakuza. Yeah? At the time, this quota, Kama, has changed profoundly. Yeah? Nowadays, there are only 5,000 maybe day laborers who work and live there. Yeah? So it is very, they have renovated a lot, and it does look completely different from the time when I went there. At the time, it's a very small area, yeah? There were 21 Yakuza bureaus in Kamagasaki. And they always joked that the population density of the Yakuza is the most dense in Kamagasaki. And of course, I went into this area in order to study the illegal workers, yeah? And then I started to be interested in this lifestyle of a day laborer. It's a bit exceptional, and very interesting people I met down there. Yeah? Of course, there are many ex-Yakuza also working as day laborers. Yeah? And in the quarter at the time, there were a lot of stalls, yomise on the street. You could drink and eat there very cheaply. So I went there for 2 years, 3 times a week. I was hanging out there drinking beer with these people in this area because I worked in Osaka in Umeda, and I lived out there in Kashiwara, Osaka no Kashiwara. And it was on the way, Shinimamiya, you go out, I drink my beer, go home. Yeah? And during these visits or stunts, I got to know a Yakuza boss. Yeah? And he was Wakagashira Hosa, middle range in the Yamaguchi-gumi, Sanjidantai, Ishin-ryu was the name, affiliated to Kanazawa-gumi. Both Kanazawa-gumi, Ishin-ryu don't exist anymore. Yeah? And I went to this stall because the lady who was running it was a real beauty. Yeah. I didn't hit on her, fortunately, because one day this guy came in. He was rather tall, and he saw me. And of course, I'm a foreigner. And the first thing he did is he rolled up his sleeves, and his tattoos showed. And then I said, "Ore, Nihon Mafia, okay." And I said, "Oh, no problem, okay." And then, he took a fancy on me. Yeah, Yakuza actually do respect people who practice karate. Yeah, because for them these are strong people. Yeah, they are good on the street. They are actually. Why do the Yakuza go scouting to Takudai? Is because these people are not only good street fighters, but also because they are used to this hierarchical structure. Yeah? In the karate world, the sensei is like an oyabun. Yeah? Senpai kohai system is absolutely important. Yeah? You have to obey. Yeah? Anyway, so I was quite familiar with the way the Yakuza interacted with each other and the way they spoke with each other. Yeah? And this guy, well, he told me about his job, and his job was threefold. He had 10 days a week. He had denwaban in the jimusho. Yeah? 10 days of the week he was going collecting protection money in Minami. Yeah? And 10 days of the week he was in Kamagasaki, because that was also part of their so-called Nawabari territory. Yeah? And so, actually, he took me along to his protection money collection tours down to Minami. Yeah? It was very interesting. And I didn't understand why he did that, because usually Yakuza don't hook up with Katagi, yeah? Unless business, money, or something else is involved. Yeah? So the thing was this, that we went down to Minami, and one evening, 5, 6, 7 hostess clubs and all these drinking holes we went. Yeah? He had keep bottled whiskey, yeah, in thousand establishments down in Minami. Yeah? And the story goes that we went into this club, and of course the ladies came, and I didn't drink whiskey in order not to get drunk too early. Yeah? I drank my beer, he got his whiskey, then Mama-san came, and then he always he said, "Mama, mite mina, ore no kumi wa homani kokusai ka shitoru wa." So I was his international asset, you know, I was his decoration piece, kind of. Yeah. And that was his interest in showing me around, you know. Now I tell you the story about the debt collection, because I mean I witnessed that very often, yeah. And I never ever saw a single mama who would hand out the money reluctantly. Yeah? It was always we were drinking there, singing karaoke and something, and then all of a sudden, Kenchan, I call him in my book, went back to the cashier, and the mama put out some money and handed it in sometimes envelopes, sometimes the cash. Yeah? And it was a totally normal transaction. Yeah? And Kenchan, that's how I called him, he told me, he was not much older than me at the time. Yeah? And I called him Aniki, actually. Yeah? And I never did Sakazuki, yeah? Just to be clear. Maybe the police listed me as Jun Kosi, and I don't know. Anyway, Kenchan told me, you know why I go there, collect the stuff in person? Oreva ninjo no aru gokudoja. Yeah? So, one reason is he goes to the places in order to see if there are many guests or not, customers coming or not, if they make profit or not. And he said if the place is in a slump, it doesn't work well, he doesn't cash in as much money. If it's very profitable, he gets more. So he adapts the protection money to the business atmosphere. Yeah, so he checks that out himself. Yeah, this is one thing. They don't want to hurt the business. Yeah, and this is one thing. And the other thing is that if I come personally, and sometimes he brought along his bodyguards, his gorillas. Yeah, he shows the mama, if there is any trouble, I'm here in person. My boys are here. Everything is okay. Yeah. So, and this is a very important point. Yeah. This is exactly the raison d'être why organized crime exists. Not only in Japan, but all over the world. There is no society without organized crime. Even in Kita-Josen, yeah? Even in North Korea, you have a black market. You have a black market, somebody has to rule that black market, and these are organized criminals. Yeah? So, even in the most totalitarian systems, you have something like organized criminals around. Yeah? So the thing is, yeah, in these establishments we went to, hostess bars, sometimes, well, sex industry involved, and blah, blah, blah. So, legal gray zones, so to speak. Yeah? Permanent troubles with the customers, people who don't want to pay, yeah, or don't have the money, drank too much, yeah, people who start a fight, people who touch the girls in a way that's not appropriate, and blah blah. Yeah. What do? You call the police? No way. Yeah. You call the police, there are all the sirens and the patrol cars out there. It's bad for business, it's bad for the reputation of the place, it's a lot of paperwork, nothing happens anyway. So what do? You call the Yakuza. Yeah. So the Yakuza do shoot all the troubles that occur in this business, that are troubleshooters. Yeah? So what they have is a alternative function of policing. Yeah? So this is an area where the police is not welcome. Yeah? And that goes for all the other businesses. Yeah? Think of illegal transactions. Yeah? This can also be in the real estate business or in semi-legal businesses. Yeah? Let's take drugs. Drugs are illegal. Yeah? If there is a drug deal going on, yeah? Somebody has to guarantee that the butsu, yeah, that the drug as such, is good, quality is good, it's pure. Yeah? Somebody has to guarantee that the buyer actually pays for the goods. Yeah? So if there are troubles coming, the goods are bad, customer doesn't pay, there's no way to call the police, you get busted. Yeah? So who does the mediating? Again, it's the Yakuza. Yeah? So one of the most famous mafia researchers called Gambetta, he calls the mafia business the business of protection. Yeah? And yes, so this just as a preamble got fairly long. So one more thing, how do you do research on Yakuza? I have in the handout at the end the sources, you can see that. You have the Keizatsu Hakusho, they always give out all the statistics, the membership numbers and so on and so forth. You have the newspaper coverage, but this is very dependent on the police, so they are totally on the police side because you have these reporter clubs and they get fed only the information that the police wants to go out. Yeah? And then you have the crime journalists, and Suzuki Tomohiko and others. Yeah? Then, this is a funny thing, almost, I think, in the meanwhile, every single so-called jitsuashi, yeah? Documento jitsua, jitsua jidai was the most important. Many so-called jitsuashi were on the market. Yeah? They have, I think one is still online, the rest is out. They're not in print anymore. But these jitsuashi actually were kind of Yakuza propaganda magazine, or I call them Yakuza fanzines, yeah, for the Yakuza watchers. You had everything in there, the photos of the bosses of all the ceremonies and blah, 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 the latest fights, and everything was covered. Yeah? It's a very good source, because these journalists are very close with the Yakuza. And then you have several famous Yakuza who wrote an autobiography. Taoka Kazuo, yeah? And Goto Tadamasa are the most famous. Yeah? Then you have lawyers or ex-lawyers, and the name here is Yamanouchi Yukio, and he was the lawyer or the ex-lawyer of the Yamaguchi-gumi. Yeah? He was one of the first persons I contacted when I came to Japan and started my Yakuza studies. Yeah? And I still am in contact with him. I met him 2 years ago. He lost his lawyer's license due to troubles, and he is also in retirement anyway. He wrote a book with the title Yakuza ga Zetsumetsu Suruhi. Yeah? And I will talk about Yakuza no Zetsumetsu in a while. Yeah? So these are all these people, you know, all these sources. Everybody has a certain standpoint or a certain perspective. And if you put it together, yeah, you get a multi-perspective approach. Yeah? One thing that is really astonishing for foreigners is you have the website in here. It's called Yakuza Wiki. Yeah, the Yakuza Wiki. Yeah, go into it, try it out. And you have got every information in there. Yeah? Then, of course, as a sociologist, you do what I was describing right now. It's called participant observation. Yeah? So I was hooking up with this Yakuza. I was going around with him, hanging out, going to eat, roaming around in the daily life, and observed what was going on. Yeah? And this is fieldwork, so to say. I also did, of course, formal interviews with a few bosses. Yeah? And my approach is a sociological or rather anthropological approach. I'm not a specialist in law, I'm not a specialist in policing, I'm not a specialist in economic questions and stuff. Yeah? I was interested in the Yakuza as human beings. Why does somebody join an organization like the Yakuza and choose this kind of lifestyle? I wanted to understand these people. Yeah? And here comes a big mistake people often make. Quite a few of the people, I wrote several books and many articles about the Yakuza, and people who did the book reviews, some of them, they said that I'm a Yakuza sympathizer, yeah? And I am not necessarily. I want to understand them. To understand doesn't mean to condone. I'm totally against violence, for instance. Yeah? I can never become a Yakuza because I'm a karateka, yeah? But I don't beat up people. Yeah? This is not what a martial artist does. Yeah? It's the contrary. Yeah? You learn martial arts in order to get peaceful and in order to tame these instincts. Yeah? I never ever want to go to a Japanese prison. Japanese prison regime is extremely harsh. Yeah? And total obedience is unthinkable for me. If somebody gives me a stupid order, I just won't do it. Yeah? So these 3 reasons make it impossible for me to ever become a Yakuza. Yeah? But let that on the side. Yeah? So even Emil Durkheim, a very famous sociologist, he said, crime is a social fact. Crime has a function. And one of the functions is to show the society where the norms are. If a crime occurs, it is sanctioned. And by the sanctioning, you consolidate the social norms. Yeah? This is a so-called functional approach. And because of that, there were also people, Durkheim legitimizes crime and blah, blah, blah. Nothing short of that, nothing of that kind. Yeah? So he was also on the side of trying to understand what crime means in a certain society. And crime flourishes or grows or develops in a certain social environment. Yeah? And this social environment, of course, changes significantly over time. Yeah? So I go, if you have the handout, quickly through the post-war history of the Yakuza, if I may. Yeah? So why did the Yakuza become big in Japan? One of the main reasons is the existence of the black market after the World War II. Yeah? Yeah, Japan was under occupation and the Americans were not interested in having a strong police force. The Japanese police was extremely weakened. They didn't even carry any weapons or something. Yeah? And the black market was more or less organized and controlled by criminal gangs. Yeah? These criminal gangs came out of 2 traditional groupings. The one are the Bakuto, these are gamblers, yeah? They exist since at least since Edo Jidai. Yeah? And the one were the Tekia, yeah? Or Yashi. Yeah? And Tekia, as you know, nowadays their business is also quite restricted due to the new laws, but Tekia in shrine festivals and so on, they do all the demisian stuff. Yeah? These are Yakuza organizations. And they are going all over the places in the country. Yeah? And they were, of course, used to getting hold of goods. Yeah? They were good providers on the black market. Yeah? And then there were new groups coming up. They were also called Shingo Yakuza, New Yakuza, or Gurentai. Yeah? And Gureru, you know that word, yeah, means to go degenerate or something. Yeah? Tai is the group. Yeah? And this term actually, turns up again in the denomination Hangure. Yeah? Maybe you have heard. Hangure is also, Gure is from Gure. Yeah? Han is hanbun no han ですよ。仇でもないし、ヤクザでもないから。ね、だからハングレ、あるいはグレーはグレーゾーンのグレーですね。だからこの言葉を作ったのは水口敦なんです。ね。And at a certain time, Hangure was quite familiar as a term. Now the police invented a new one. Yeah? Toku Ryu, ね。特命流動型団体。ね、特流. It's a good denomination because it actually takes into account what factually happens. It's a very loosely knit, network knit groups, yeah, and underground, and when fluid means they come together for a certain crime and then disband again and come together again. So they also speak from amoebic structure, very, very different to the old Yakuza organizations, which are very, very strict and clearly organized. Yeah. So the other thing that was making the Yakuza big was their fights or feuds with the Sangokujin. Yeah? You don't remember that, but there were people who came into Japan during the Second World War and earlier as forced labor from Korea, from Taiwan, and from China. And once the war was over, they felt to have been liberated or something, but they stayed in Japan. Yeah? And many of them began with criminal activities. Yeah? And they were actually controlled by the Yakuza and absorbed into their organizations, a few of them. Yeah? And because they were fighting against the Sangokujin, the police didn't have the power to do that. Yeah? It was particularly rampant in Kobe. Yeah? And the Yamaguchi-gumi, which was founded in 1915, was starting to get a bit bigger and was very active in this respect. Yeah? So they got a reputation of being the protectors of the Japanese people or something, a little bit romanticized stuff. Yeah? So, and once the occupation was over in 1952, of course the criminal gangs don't disappear. Yeah? So what they do, they start to establish their traditional income, which is in the sex industry, which is these protection rackets I was talking about. Yeah, so getting protection money from certain restaurants and from all kind of places, but also delivering a sort of security system for these places. Yeah? And the Yamaguchi-gumi became big because they had a very aggressive policy. They were extremely militant and they were extremely expansionist. Yeah? So from Kobe, they went into Osaka first. Yeah? They destroyed the Matsuda-gumi, which was a Korean gang. Yeah? And one gang after another, they were fighting with and absorbing into their own structure. Yeah? And then the Olympic Games were held in Tokyo in 1964. This was the first big change in regard to the underworld. because at the time, the figures are there were around 55,200 gangs with 184 officially registered members. Officially registered members are defined by the fact that they had a ritual called Sakazuki with the Oyabun, and they are officially taken into a Yakuza organization. So this is the official number, but the Yakuza periphery, of course, people who cooperate with them or people who are not yet fully fledged members and so on, is maybe double. Yeah? And you know, Japan is very concerned about its image versus the outside world. Yeah? So at the time, the politicians, they thought, well, we have now the Olympics, and we have such a rampant, big organized crime in Japan that doesn't look good. We have to do something. Yeah? So there was a certain strategy implemented, which was called Chojo Saksen in English, summit strategy on the one hand, and that meant that the police tried to get the bosses arrested. Yeah? The bosses went into prison, so the organizations were disorganized, they had no leadership anymore. Many small gangs were just disbanded. Yeah? And so this was a kind of clean-up, the first clean-up operation, yeah, in the underworld. Yeah? And that actually had always these clampdowns, yeah, have side effects. Side effect here was only the biggest and the fittest and the best organizations actually survived. Yeah? Number two, the introduction of the so-called Jo-no-king system. Yeah? Jo-no-king means that the many big syndicates are organized in a hierarchical way. There is the mother organization and then affiliations in the first, second, third, in the Yamaguchi-gumi down to the fourth, fifth, sixth rank. Yeah? In smaller organizations, maybe 1, 2 ranks affiliations. And the smaller groups on the lower end of the hierarchy, they have to pay money from their profits up to the mother organization. Yeah? The reason is that the bosses, they get all this money, they get bloody rich. Yeah? But it's not only about enrichment. It means that the bosses do not have to do any dirty work. Yeah? They are, in this case, in this way, it's called isolated from legal and other measures that can be taken against them. Yeah? So, and this Jo-no-king system actually backfired in the Yakuza world after the bubble burst, because these Jo-no-king contributions were so high that many of the lower-ranking Yakuza couldn't afford it anymore. Yeah? So this brought a lot of problems into the Yakuza world. And the Yamaguchi-gumi split up in 2015. Yeah? One of the main reasons was this Jo-no-king system, because the people couldn't pay that anymore. Yeah? And and next thing is that they started to venture into legal businesses. Yeah? This is very well known: construction business, transport, pro wrestling, yeah? Entertainment. Misori Hibari minna shiteru desho? She was taken in by Taoka Kazuo. Yeah? Taoka Kazuo is Yamaguchi-gumi Sandaimyo. It's the most famous boss when she was 15, Taoka was taking her in, and he was looking after her for her career. And Misore Hibari's brother was a Yakuza. Yeah? But this is just one example. The whole entertainment industry. Yeah? This, what was it? I don't know. Everything was this Geinoujin agencies and stuff. Yeah? It was run by the Yakuza, yeah? At the time, you have to say. Yeah? And it is the time of the so-called Ninkyo Eiga. Yeah? So Takakura-ken, Sugawara Bunta, and so on. Yeah? So these romanticized Robin Hood Yakuza and stuff. Yeah? So at the time, the Yakuza had quite a positive image. Yeah? And I do sometimes, as a theoretical backdrop, describe the Yakuza interaction within the state as a super game. Yeah? And in this super game, there are certain players. Yeah? The Yakuza as an institution, as I would call it, is one of the players. The other players are the economic world, the business world. And then comes jurisprudence, where you make the laws, yeah? And politics, and the police, and Ippan Shiminyo, all the persons who live in Japan. This I say particularly because there was a very strict revision of the Yakuza law, yeah, after the implementation of the first Botaiho. Yeah? So nowadays, just to tell you, it is forbidden for you as an individual to have contact, to hire Yakuza. Yeah? You can be fined, you can be put into jail for a year. Yeah? 50万ですよ、罰金。Yeah? ヤクザとの、ヤクザ雇おうとか、ヤクザなんか頼もうとしたらさ。Yeah? So that means crime control is a very slick kind of strategy. Yeah? Crime control is in your hands in a way. Yeah? And since this revision is implanted or implemented, yeah, the Yakuza complain that nobody comes. They have no kyaksan anymore. Yeah? So the Yakuza are totally isolated today. Yeah? But so the population also plays a big factor in the whole game. Yeah? Yeah. So, and there are certain rules. Yeah? These big super players, they negotiate certain rules. And at the time, the rule was, the police said, okay, the Yakuza, they're in these red light districts and they do their business out of, let them do their business there. Yeah? That's all right. Drugs, yeah, it becomes a little bit tricky, but the Yakuza promised that they will keep the real hard stuff, yeah? LSD, heroin, cocaine, and the stuff that was rampant in the States, yeah, at the time, end of 60s, 70s and stuff. Yeah? The Yakuza promised they will keep that out of Japan. Yeah? And as a, well, and so the police, well, they said, okay, they do some shabu stuff, but, well, no hard drugs coming in. Let's do them. Yeah? This is called laissez-faire. Yeah? So they had a certain fields of business where the police did not intervene unless it was very blatant. If there was a murder, of course, because of fights, yeah? Or if enormous shipments of drugs were busted or something. It's a different story. But basically, it was laissez-faire. It was a contract. Yeah? The police at the moment, you know, everywhere there were these Yakuza bureaus. They do exist anymore, but you don't know where they are. At the time, you had the Yakuza bureau, and there was a big Yamabishi, for instance, if it is a Yamaguchi-gumi bureau, yeah? They had the daimon of the Yakuza, their symbol, at the entrance, at the door. Everybody knew where these Yakuza bureaus were. Yeah? If you had some trouble and you wanted the Yakuza to help you, you could go there. Yeah? And the police, actually, the patrolling police, I made an interview with an ex-policeman. He told me that they went to the Yakuza bureaus every week, once, twice, to have a chat, to drink some coffee and stuff. Yeah? And in the bureaus, like in a judo or something dojo, there were these nafuda, yeah? And they could see, this guy, he's just in jail at the moment. This guy was promoted. Yeah? This guy was thrown out, hamon toga. Yeah? So they could always get the membership lists up to date. Yeah? This is absolutely gone. Yeah? The Yakuza refuse any cooperation with the police nowadays. Yeah? It's a totally new climate. Yeah? They are enemies. At the time, they were kind of cooperating in a certain sense. Yeah? So the policy of laissez-faire, yeah, has gone in the totally other direction, which means absolute, strong, cold, and strict repression. Yeah? So every crime control policy is between these two poles, either laissez-faire or repression. and you have to find a good balance. Yeah? What nowadays happens in Japan is that these rules between these actors have to be renegotiated because the criminal underworld has changed profoundly. Yeah? So if you go quickly to the next stages, yeah? In the 80s, yeah, there is a phenomenon which can be called oligopolization. Oligopole means that there are very strong organizations on top, yeah? And they monopolize the criminal market. It was Yamaguchi-gumi, Sumiyoshi Rengo, Sumiyoshi Kai, it's nowadays, and Inagawa Kai. These three gangs, 2/3 at least, or more of the Yakuza have been belonging to these gangs. Yeah? The reason is that Yamaguchi-gumi is a brand. It's a brand name. Yeah? Everybody in Japan knows this brand. Yeah? So if you do a deal, yeah, or some business, yeah, and you say Yamaguchi-gumi, everybody, you, yeah, and gets a little bit anxious. Yeah? So this is one point which will come up later. One of the things that make the Yakuza strong and illegal on the same level is that they can or do employ physical violence, yeah, intimidation, yeah, as means of doing business. Yeah. A normal businessman cannot recur to these means. Yeah. So this is their main advantage on the market, yeah? Physical violence. And the police picked this factor out and coined a new term based on that fact, yeah? Bo ryoku dan, yeah? So groups who actually employ violence. Yeah? But this is only one factor of the whole Yakuza business, just to be sure about that. Yeah? But this bo ryoku dan, this new designation, was coined in order to get rid of this romantic image of the Yakuza in the Nikkyo era. Yeah? Well, and yeah, in the 80s there was the Sarakin business, on 40,000 or more Sarakin little outlets in over the country, enormous interest rates collected. Debt collection, yeah, was a big business. Ne? Toritate, shakin toritate, ne? Because that is, in Japan it was allowed only for lawyers, and if lawyers do that, it takes years and years and years. Nobody knows if the money comes back. If a Yakuza goes in, the money is there in no time. But half of it goes to the Yakuza. Toretate seppan tiu genri ga ne. And bankruptcy scam, all kind of things. Yeah, and so-called out-of-court settlements in private conflicts. The legal term in Japan is Menji Kainyu Boryoku. Yeah? This was later put into the new law. All these activities were illegalized. So, one other big turning point is the bubble economy. Yeah? Because, as you are aware of, the prices of real estate and of the tochi in Tokyo and in big cities, they creeped up into the sky. Extremely high profits involved. Yeah, and in this time, yeah, the Yakuza were employed by the banks, by real estate firms, but also by stock companies and things, yeah, in order to do the dirty work. Yeah? You know maybe the term chiage. Yeah? So there was a plot of land, yeah? And on this plot of land they wanted to build Tawaman, it's now called, let's say a big mansion or something, it doesn't matter. And on this plot of land there were little tenants of houses, yeah, who didn't want to leave. Yeah? So what did they do? They called the Yakuza and they began to harass these people until they left. And they of course cashed in a lot of money by that. What happened is that the Yakuza got savvy about real estate business, and they started to establish their own legal real estate businesses. Yeah? Every Yakuza group that has a certain level of wealth tries to go legal. Yeah? And so they have these so-called front companies, yeah. And in the bubble time, they had the money to do all of these kind of things. They were buying a lot of stocks, yeah. They were actually encroaching or invading the whole legal business world, and that is a breach of the contract, yeah. All of a sudden, the businessmen said, the banks said, the police said, stop, there's too much, yeah. And the result was this strict anti-Yakuza law. Yeah? 第法ですね。暴力団による不当な行為などに防止に関する法律です。ね? So I call it anti-Yakuza law, or 暴対法。ね? 暴対法 is the abbreviation. ね? Well, in the meantime, there was also the so-called Yamaichi Senso. That was the first split up of the Yamaguchi-gumi. Yeah? They were split up into two groups, Yamaguchi-gumi and Ichiwakai. Ichiwakai had 6,000 members at the time, and Yamaguchi-gumi 5,000, and they were starting fights on the streets with guns and stuff. More than 200 people were injured, 25 Yakuza killed and so on. And these kind of things, yeah, open warfare on the streets, make very bad blood, makes very, very bad press, yeah? And there started the media campaigns against the Yakuza. And once this starts, the police get under pressure. Once the police is under pressure, they have to clamp down, yeah? Once this happens, the politicians have to act. All what happens, new laws have to be enacted, yeah? So this new law came into force in 1992, and since then everything has changed significantly. Yeah. So I make it quick. So after the law was implemented, I call this the Ice Age for the Yakuza. Yeah. It's also because the bubble economy burst, yeah? Recession. Economy is slow. If the economy is bad, the Yakuza suffer. If the economy is good, the Yakuza thrive. Yeah, therefore, in the 1960s, when you had two-digit economic growth rates, the Yakuza got fat and got rich. Yeah? Now they were suffering. No clients coming anymore. All kind of businesses were now prohibited because of the new law. Yeah? And they were under permanent supervision. Then this Botaiho was revised several times. Yeah? One of the important revisions was what is in the handout, Shiosha Sekinin, employer's liability, was implemented 2004. That means if a kobun of some Yakuza gang does any kind of damage, be it material or personal, if he injures somebody, kills somebody or something, the boss can be held liable for this case. And there were high compensation sums and compensation fees involved once it goes to court. And the Yamaguchi-gumi Godaime, Watanabe Yoshinori, because of this law, he got totally paranoid. He thought, when my boys do some bad things, I have to pay out millions and millions and billions of yen. And he started to drop a lot of pills, that he can sleep. And he lost completely his mind, And that's why Tsukasa Shinobu, Rokudaime, took over. There was a coup d'etat. Doesn't happen usually in the Yakuza world. But this is also a side effect of this law. And with Tsukasa Shinobu, the rules in the Yamaguchi-gumi changed. So the cooperation with the police is totally gone. And that's the one thing. And then the next very big thing were the so-called Orikudan Haijo Jore, Bohai Jore. That means that the bank business, real estate business, even the film industry, the Genojin companies, all kinds of companies have declared that they will cut their ties with the Yakuza. When you want an apartment, want to rent a flat in Japan, and you look at the contract that is in there, Borikudan nantoka nantoka no kankei-sha to 関係ないとかどうのこうのね、どこでもね。So they were completely shut out. Yeah? A yakuza nowadays, because of these jore, yeah? He cannot buy even a keitai. He cannot buy a car. He cannot rent a flat. Yeah? He's completely out in mobile. Yeah? So this is what is meant with total social isolation of the yakuza. Of course, these businesses also cut their ties with them. Yeah? And the Yamaguchi Gumi had a second split in 2015, yeah, into 3 groups. Yeah? Interestingly, in the first stage, they were called Rokudaime Yamaguchi Gumi, Kobe Yamaguchi Gumi, and Ninkyo Dantai Yamaguchi Gumi. Yeah? So all the 3 groups clambered to this brand name Yamaguchi Gumi. Yeah? Only the Ninkyo Dantai, they renamed their group into Kizunakai. Yes, interesting development. Their boss is in his 50s, which is rather young in the Yakuza world. Yeah? He's of Korean descent. Yeah? And the Hombu is in Amagasaki. Wajishima. Yeah? And he has totally reorganized his group. Yeah? Kizuna means bonding. Yeah? And he says, okay, we have a flat hierarchy. Yeah? I'm not called Oyabun, I'm the Kaicho. We have no Jonokin, yeah? It's a smaller group. But this is he tries to adapt his group to the new realities. Yeah? The old Yakuza, they are Setsumetsu Kibu Nantogashu. They are gonna go out, therefore I talk about the dinosaurs here. The one thing is, of course, demographic thing. Yeah? The Japanese population, of course, is overaging, but the Yakuza is even more overaging. 50% of the Yakuza is over 50. Yeah? They have only around 4% in the 20s. Yeah? So there are no new recruits. Nobody becomes a Yakuza anymore. Yeah? Because you can't do anything. The Yakuza don't have money anymore. And you know, traditional Yakuza apprenticeship, heirasumi and stuff, yeah, it is very arduous, yeah, very strenuous. You get a little pocket money, and that's it. And you have to serve your boss or your aniki for a few years until you were accepted as a regular member and all the thing. Do all kind of little errands, have to clean the toilet, and you know, all that stuff, yeah. Nobody wants to do that anymore. Nowadays, the young people want money. They want it now. They want it quick. They want it with no suffering. Yeah? So there are many other ways to do that. This is one thing. And the most important part is that the Yakuza have sleepwalked through the transformation into the information age. The Yakuza bosses, most of them are in their 60s, in their 70s. Yeah? And like me, I'm not the Yakuza boss. They are proud that they have these old karake, yeah? Because they say when they have smartphones, it's much easier to track them down, you know? This is better, yeah? And they are not internet fit, yeah? They have no idea about the internet, these old guys, yeah? And most of the crime went into cyberspace, yeah? So the Yakuza are totally out. Even traditional Yakuza businesses, drugs, yeah? In particular synthetic drugs, yeah? Crazy mushrooms, all that stuff that is now on vogue. Yeah? It's traded on the net, dark net and stuff, not by the Yakuza on the street. Yeah? Sex crimes, porn industry, yeah? Dating sites, yeah? Involving extortion and blah, blah, blah. Everything in the net, it's not done by the Yakuza. Gambling, yeah? Traditional Yakuza income, yeah? Black casinos, yeah? All that stuff is happening in the net. Yeah? That means all these even these traditional business spheres of the Yakuza are taken over by these new groups. Yeah? And they are called, as I said, Hangure or Tokuryu. Basically, both designations mean the same people. Yeah? And globally speaking, there are 2 types of Hangure. Yeah? The ones are the internet nerds. Yeah? All Hangure are in their 20s or younger, yeah? And they are internet natives. Yeah? And most of the tokushusagi, yeah? There are 25,000 tokushusagi going on every year in Japan. The damage involved is much, much bigger as the damage the Yakuza actually incur. Yeah? Just to say that as a side remark. And most of these tokushusagi are done by hangure, not by Yakuza. Yeah? A Yakuza, an honorable Yakuza would say, ne, robberies, thefts, yeah, protection, everything that involves crimes of this kind are forbidden for the Yakuza. The Yakuza are not thieves. It's against their code. They have an honor. Yeah? And an honorable Yakuza would say, tokushusagi, ore sagi or something, out of the question. Impossible. Yeah? This old lady saving her money all her life, and you rob it from her. This is totally against ninjo. Yeah? A Yakuza wouldn't do that. Yeah? The problem is the Yakuza are so very much in dire straits that now they cooperate with hangure people, or they skim off money from the hangure. Yeah? So they, in the Japanese criminal underworld, yeah, the Yakuza, they are called honshoku or hongyo by the hangure, and are very much respected and feared because of their brutality, because of their countrywide network, yeah? Because of their logistics and so forth, and so on and so forth. Yeah? So they are still, as far as power and prestige is concerned, they are on top of the underworld hierarchy. Yeah? And some Yakuza, because of this new law, yeah, the membership of the Yakuza has drastically fallen. Yeah? Officially, maybe there are only 3,000, what was it, 30,000 Yakuza left on the scene. Yeah? The Yamaguchi Gomi alone in her heyday had 20,000 members. Yeah? So, yeah, 2020, it was the official Yakuza membership was around 25,000. Yeah? And many Yakuza try to hide their Yakuza status, because the Yakuza status has no advantage anymore. It's detrimental. Yeah? So they either leave many of them leave the organizations. The problem is the police, they handle a person who went out of a Yakuza group 5 years after they quit, still as Yakuza. Yeah? So for them it's almost impossible to get a legal job. Yeah? And I tell you one thing, the Japanese society, in regard to people with a criminal record, they are extremely cold. Yeah? Only 3% of ex-Yakuza get a legal job. Yeah? This is in contrary, for instance, to the United States, which has, of course, an enormous incarceration rate, yeah? And has its own gulag, I call it. There are 2 million people incarcerated, imprisoned in the United States. Yeah? It's incredible. It's more than in Russia. Yeah? But these people come out, they get a second chance. They get a third chance. Yeah? This doesn't happen here. Once you are out of prison, you are gone. Yeah? So the thing is, these Yakuza, ex-Yakuza, half-Yakuza, whatever they are, the only thing they can do is still float around on the criminal market. So they hook up with the hangure. Yeah? Sometimes they skim off the money. Sometimes they give them information, and so on and so forth. So there are hybrid structures on the horizon. Yeah? And but the old school Yakuza, I would also underscore the title of Yamanouchi Sensei's book, Zetsumetsu Suru toいうことは決まっとる. Is there anything else? Yes, of course. Yeah. So the big topic in Japan nowadays is, of course, the yami baito and the robberies that happened. There was a series of robberies just the last months up there in Kanto, but this is not the first series. There was an equivalent series a year ago. Yeah? And the one of a year ago was actually orchestrated from the Philippines by this gang called Lofi. Yeah? And these are also these militant Tokuryu. So what I wanted to say, Tokuryu Hungary, there are two types. The internet guys, yeah? They do a lot of internet crime, of course, cyberspace crime, the Tokusatsu and all that stuff. Yeah? But also with crypto coins and I don't know what. Yeah? And then there are the very militant and extremely violent Hungary. They come from a different strand. These are other social misfits. Yeah? The problem is that I talked about people who come out of jail, but it's not only people come out of jail. If a juvenile in Japan comes into contact with the law, if he's institutionalized in some juvenile institution or something, yeah, his social chances to go into legal business, to get a good job, was extremely restricted. So in former times, yeah, these kind of misfits, they were picked up by the Yakuza. Yeah? And the Yakuza disciplined them. Yeah? The Yakuza is a big asylum for all those people who don't make it in the mainstream society. And it's a very binyona hanashi yakedo. Discriminated ethnic groups, Zainichi Kangujin. Yeah? And it's not an ethnic group, but Hisabitsu Buragumi. Yeah? These people, because they are discriminated at, because they have problems on the labor market, they went into the Yakuza. According to Yamanouchi Sensei, this lawyer of Yamaguchi-gumi, 1/3 of the Kansai Yakuza organizations had people with either Buragumin or Korean background. Yeah? So there's another pool where Yakuza got their recruits in former times. Yeah? So all these social misfits, they were taken in by the Yakuza. Yeah? And they gave them a chance. They gave them this male bonding, companionship. Yeah? They gave them a chance to make a living. Yeah? And this is actually, again, maybe somebody will accuse me of sympathizing with the Yakuza, but this is a social stabilizing factor, or it was a stabilizing factor, because these street dogs, yeah, these stray dogs on the street, these misfits, because they came into the Yakuza organization, because they were schooled and disciplined in there, yeah, they didn't go out and became thieves or robbers or whatever else, or some other petty criminals. Yeah? So nowadays, these misfits, where do they go? They have no place to go. The Yakuza is not interesting anymore. Yeah? So they join the Hungary. The people who became Hungary, became Yakuza in former times, become Hungary. Of course, you have youngsters in former times coming out of Bolsosoko or other groups, yeah, who are prone to violence. And these militant Hungary, they often come from the Kaktogi scene, yeah? Mixed martial arts and stuff. Yeah? They are good fighters on the street. Yeah? They are very scary because they always have weapons on them. Yeah? They carry around baseball bats, metal baseball bats. They beat you up with that. Yeah? And they are encroaching into the protection money business in the nightlife of the Yakuza. Because the Yakuza cannot do that anymore because of the new law. Yeah? And these Hungary, they also run establishments in the nightlife. Particularly host clubs, yeah? All this botakuri stuff, yeah? Girl bars and things, yeah? Are often run by these militant Tokuryu or Hungary. Yeah? So the Yakuza is driven out of their old businesses and territories and replaced by the Hungary. But I can tell you one thing, the Hungary have no identity. Yakuza have an identity. Yeah? If you're a Yakuza, and if you ask him what he does, he said, yeah? And they are very proud of being the protectors of the poor and this weak and blah blah blah. This all this mythology that's involved. Yeah, but they have a very strong identity to be a yakuza. Hangure don't want to be called Hangure. They have no identity. They have no countrywide network like the yakuza. They are very cold. They grew up in a time when the economy was totally down. They grew up with computer games. So all these tokushosagi guys, yeah, they do these tokushosagi like with a totally gamer mentality, yeah, loser and winner, yeah. So if these people are so stupid that they hand over their money or transfer the money, they were stupid. They were on the losing side. I'm the winner. Yeah? They don't see you as human being. Nil. Yeah? It's a game for them. The same thing is, of course, happening with the Yamibaito. Yeah? The people on the lower end, they're not seen as what they are. Sometimes students, sometimes I don't know what, drifters on the labor market or whatever. Yeah? They are just to be thrown away once the business is done. Yeah? That's the Ryudogata means, yeah? That there are certain people on top who order these jobs. Yeah? There are actually ristoya-san desu yo. Yeah? This comes from the tokushosagi business. Yeah? People who have been scammed once, they make lists, yeah? And they make lists of old people. They research in the internet what they buy. Yeah? And if they buy extremely expensive stuff, yeah, they think they are rich, so we can rob them. Yeah? And then comes the Yamibaito stuff. The problem is, yeah, the Yamibaito advertisements, they get more and more sophisticated. So nowadays it's just Kogaku Baito or something. Yeah? If you go in there, yeah, don't do it. Yeah? There is no quick, big money in no time. That doesn't happen if it is not illegal. Yeah? Once you go into a site like that, yeah, the first thing they ask you is to hand over an identity card or something, yeah, your gakusho or whatever it is, menkyo or something, yeah, so they know who you are. Once that has happened, you are in their hands, yeah. The next day, the order comes, yeah, and he says tataki. Tataki means to go after midnight to a certain house, break in, beat up the people and get the money. Yeah? And if you say, yeah, I don't do it, then they say, okay, we know your beautiful younger sister. We know where she is. And you don't want to harm your relatives or something, you know? So they really blackmail you with that. So it is extremely dangerous business. And for them, they don't care if you go to jail, yeah? Because the under end, yeah? It's not only this tataki, it's getting money from ATM machines, yeah? These are the dashiko, yeah? In transfer scams, yeah? Or ukiko, yeah? They go to the houses and get the credit cards and blah, 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 yeah? Yes, so, and this also is run by these Hangure groups, yeah? And it's extremely dangerous. And well, so what happens is there is a big, Mizuguchi Atsushi called it chikaku hendo, yeah? Seismic shift on the criminal market. Yeah? Very, very much goes into cyberspace. Yeah? And yeah, maybe I will keep it at that. And questions, remarks, discussion, critique, everything, welcome, please.
Okay, thank you very much. I was really impressed with your knowledge of this topic. I'm really surprised. Okay, we welcome the questions. And you can ask him in Japanese too, as he has a good command of Japanese. 日本語でも構いません。じゃあどうぞ。どうぞ、プロフェッサー長松。
Dr. Herbert, it was quite interesting story that I have. Actually, I respect you as a Budo person because I'm now playing Kendo. So, and I wanted to join karate club Kansai University because the Kansai University karate club has silver medalist of the karate who graduated from Kansai University. So, but anyway, so I was born and grown up in Kitakyushu, which is the hometown of the Kudokai.
Kudokai, yes.
So when I was the elementary school student, I have many friends whose parents belongs to Yakuza. So, and it's quite interesting that in the sports festival, many parents has
tattoos.
Irezumi, and they open a bottle of beer during the undokai. So, but I thought it was very usual, but it's not usual. I realized that when I go to college in Tokyo. But anyway, so at that time, the Yakuza they have the they have civil rights within our community. So they were recognized as a kind of profession. So we respect them. I don't like them because they are very scared, so I keep away from them. But in our community, so they are kind of the citizens and the profession. And during the festival, like Yamakasa, so they have strong power, and they provide a lot of people who can carry out the festival. But anyway, so my understanding of your story is something like this. So in the initial phase of the Yakuza, they are a kind of private law enforcement organization. And
yes.
also, they provide workfare for the unprivileged people, right?
Yes.
So, but because of the, I don't know which is the first or later, but because of the changing of the characteristic, not as in police law enforcement, but they stick to kind of the criminal activities. So the relationship between the Yakuza and the police has changed, totally changed, and it leads to the current situation. But anyway, so my question is that, so what is the situation in the other countries? Like you said, Yakuza is translated as Japanese mafia, but my idea of mafia is something like the Godfather, right, in Italy. So what is the difference between the mafia and the Yakuza? What is unique in Yakuza?
Yeah, that's a good and big question. Good and big question. I will maybe afterwards make a remark to Kitakyushu. I actually had made an interview with the high boss of the Kudokai. And anyway, so the difference between mafia and Yakuza. Up to now, the biggest difference was the visibility. Yeah? The visibility. Yeah?
Okay.
So you had these Yakuza magazines, Jitsuwa Jidai and stuff. Everybody could see who is who, yeah? And read about the mafia, about the Yakuza. Unthinkable in the mafia world. Yeah? The other thing is the structure of the organization. Yeah? Mafia is actually the term for the Sicilian organized crime that was, of course, also active due to the immigration in New York and in the United States. Yeah? In Italy, you have also the 'Ndrangheta and the Camorra on the mainland. Yeah? So these are the three big different mafia organizations in Italy, and their system is based on being related. I mean, blood relationship. Yeah? So these are big clans, yeah, of big families. Yeah? They do, of course, intermarriage, make marriages and stuff in order to enhance their clientele and their membership, but they are all more or less, maybe second, third cousin, doesn't matter, but there is a blood relationship. Yeah? So they are really family in a certain sense. Yeah? In the Japanese context, they are virtual families. Ne? So sometimes the Yakuza organizations are even called Ikka. Ne? And I mean, Oyabun, Kobun, Sakazuki is also a virtual relationship that is established by that. Yeah? The Oyabun is from now on your fictive father in a certain sense and have to obey him and things. Yeah? And the next thing is when we talk about the visibility that the Italian forms of criminal organizations, they try to stay completely underground. Yeah? So even the people where they live, they by rumor, maybe they know, oh, he might be a Yakuza, he might be a mafia boss, maybe not, yeah? But nobody really knows. Yeah? Even, you can see that in movies as well. Yeah? There is a movie, what was it called, with Al Pacino and Johnny Depp. It's a real case of an infiltration of the mafia in New York. And the mafia, they sometimes don't even know when they meet somebody, even if he's Sicilian, if he is a mafia or not. Yeah? And the way they're introduced reveals that. Yeah? If they say he's a good guy or something, they have certain terms, then they know, aha, this is also a mafioso. Yeah? So it is a very secretive operation, so to say. Yeah? What happens in Japan actually is some of the criminal reporters, they say that the Yakuza more and more become like the mafia because the cooperation with the police is gone. They try to go underground, they try to hide their mafia Bollywood status and stuff. Yeah? And on the other hand, it has to be said that as far as business is concerned, yeah, that in the case of Sicilian and other mafia groups, it's drug business, of course. Weapons is a big business also among the Yakuza. Human trafficking, yeah, labor and sex slaves and stuff. Yeah, gambling, of course. Yeah, and also real estate and other things. Yeah, trying to go legal. So business-wise, criminal organizations all over the world are very similar. Yeah? In case of the organization, there is a certain cultural background. And that is in the Italian context, the familial structure. And here, this Confucian concept of human relationships between father, son, and so on, and fictive stuff. Yeah? Mm. And Kitakyushu is interesting because this is really one of the places where the most dangerous groups are active. Yeah? And for the police, this is also a certain laboratory where they try out how far they can go. Yeah? So the Kudokai actually, they got this special level of being extremely dangerous, and later it was Tokte Kiken, and so on and so forth. Yeah? So it's only the Kudokai which is labeled like that. And the boss of the Kudokai, Nomura Satoru, he actually was given this death penalty, not because he himself murdered somebody, but some of his underlings, yeah, murdered people. Yeah? This is totally new. Yeah? I mean, it goes into revision. I don't think it holds, but still, the police tries out how far they can go. Yeah? I think even he was indicted for tax evasion. Yeah? And we all know that Al Capone in New York, he was busted because of tax evasion in the end. Yeah? Nowadays, the police in Japan try out if that works. Yeah? And they always do it in Kyushu. And if in Kyushu it works, in Kitakyushu, then it goes to the whole country. Yeah? So in this respect, Kitakyushu is quite a tricky place, and the Yakuza down there are said to be feared and more dangerous than the Yamaguchi-guri. Yeah? So, tough place. Yeah? Mm.
Thank you very much.
It's also maybe in a certain sense historically connected with the coal industry. Yeah? With the coal industry. Yeah?
So you mean that the mafia in Italy doesn't have the function of the gang welfare?
Okay.
No.
Of course.
It's kind of the private law enforcement function. They don't have that.
Oh, they do have it. Of course.
They do.
They do exactly the same thing.
Okay.
They also collect a lot of protection monies of all kind of protection money of all kind of restaurants and sex establishments, whatever, pizzerias even in Germany pay to the mafia, and so on. Yeah? So it's the same thing. Yeah?
So they still do have such a function in Italy.
They do. Yes, yes.
Contrary to the Japanese situation.
I mean, the law enforcement in Italy has also become very, very strict. Yeah, and sometimes you hear the news that some big boss has been apprehended. Yeah, but these bosses, they were living totally ordinary lives somewhere in the countryside. Nobody knows. Yeah? And what do I want to say? Yeah, and of course, I mean the organized criminal gangs, they want to expand their territory in order to get more revenue. Yeah, so of course there are warfares going on.
So how the Italy citizen ask them to protect themselves? How to ask the mafia to protect themselves?
Yeah, you have to go through different connections. Yeah, there are. Did you see the Godfather? The movie Godfather. Yeah.
Godfather.
Yeah, there is Marlon Brando is the Don Corleone on the table. Yeah, and people come in. Yeah? So the people are referred to him. Yeah? There's somebody who has, I don't know, problem in Italy. One of the big things that the mafia was controlling was the water supply. It's a very dry place. Yeah? So if they had problems with watering their fields or something, they listened around, to whom can I go? Yeah? And then somebody will tell you, the boss is over there. Yeah? So it goes over certain hearsay, rumor stuff that you're introduced to the boss. Yeah? And you can go there and ask and tell your troubles, and he will decide if he intervenes or if he does not intervene. Yeah? So that's exactly this Don Corleone scene. The normal citizens come in, yeah, and tell him their problems, be it a problem with their wife or whatever, yeah. And then he says, okay, will be done. Yeah? So it's all hearsay and but not officially declared, like in Japan having a bureau or something.
Okay, thank you very much. I want to add one more information that Takakura Ken, who is a movie star of Ninkyo Eiga, he is my senpai in my high school.
Very good.
I haven't seen him, but yeah.
OK、thank you. 学生さんないですかね。日本語でもいいですよ。はい。じゃあ昨日も聞いたんですけども、昨日はカルト宗教に引っかからないためにはどうしたらいいでしょうかねっていうふうに学生さんのアドバイスをもらいましたけども、そしたら闇バイトとかそういうのに引っかからないためには学生さんにアドバイスを。So, could you give them advice to escape from the invitation to yami baito?
Yeah, this is. I mean, I'm with the Hangul. The most I know about this world is about certain from the literature. I have no personal contact to any of these people. I had a lot of contact to the Yakuza. It's a different story. I don't want to be involved with any Hangul guy. Yeah, I tell you why. Because they have no scruple whatsoever. Yeah, they will exploit you as much as they can. Yeah, so I can only give the advice that is already given out by mass media and the police. Every single baito that promises you a lot of money in a very, very short time. Just don't go into this site. Basta. That's it. If you go into the site, if you're blackmailed, go to the police as soon as possible. Don't get hooked up with these people. Yeah? And
But it's rather different. Yesterday, about cult crime, you told us that first, please ask them questions.
Yes,
but
yes.
This time you shut up. Okay.
Yeah, you just try not to get in contact with that. But maybe if you, this is maybe the same thing that you can do. I mean, you are the security specialist, yeah? So if you're recruited or you want to do the job, ask questions, what is involved. But usually, what we know about cases that have been publicized, the recruiters are very slick and very smart. Yeah? They will tell you it's nothing illegal, you won't be arrested, and so on and so forth. So they will try to comfort you and tell you everything is safe. Yeah? So asking questions, I don't know if this is a good safety, but it's of course a way to check out, yeah, what is actually expected of you. Yeah? And yeah, I can't say much more. Yeah. One thing, because he was talking about tattoos, the Hangure in the nightlife, you can actually spot them easily because many of them have tattoos on visible places. Hand, neck, face or something. Yeah? These guys are not straight, be sure of that. And according to the old Yakuza code, yeah, you don't have tattoos in visible places. Low-ranking, good-for-nothing Yakuza sometimes do it, but actually it is not in the Yakuza aesthetic code. Yeah? It's against Iki, it's against the manly elegance to have some bullshit, sorry for the term, some stupid black decorations up your neck or up your head or in your face or something. Yeah? But this is a characteristic of the new tattooing code of the Hangure. Keep away from these people.